Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Khmer Times God's Talk. With us today, we have a very honorable guest, Her Excellency Zuo Wenxing. Yes, the Deputy Chief of Mission of the People's Republic of China Embassy in Cambodia. And today, we are going to talk about how Cambodia and China has been helping one another, working together in order to combat the invisible enemy, the COVID-19 pandemic. So thank you for joining us today. Yeah. My first question is, Her Excellency, can you please enlighten us and our viewers on the steps taken by the Chinese Embassy and the People's Republic of China to tackle the situation, the COVID-19 situation in Cambodia as we are facing the February 20 community event? Yes, please.
We've been following the developments very closely. Ever since the outbreak of the community transmission, the embassy has been working very closely with the Ministry of Health as well as the other relevant government agencies of Cambodia. And we support the prompt and resolute measures the Cambodian government has put in place. And in our own way, we have also tried to provide assistance to the best of our ability. Actually, before the outbreak, the embassy donated about 10,000 test kits to Pasteur Institute for contingency use. And immediately after the outbreak, the embassy donated much-needed masks to the municipal government of Phnom Penh, to the hospitals treating the COVID-19 patients, as well as the quarantine centers, which we hope will help Cambodia deal with its third community outbreak. And we have also accelerated the establishment of a medical lab in Sihanoukville, which will be doing COVID-19 testing. The construction of the building is almost done by the Cambodian side. The medical equipment China donates, as well as the medical team who will help to set up the lab and provide training, are expected to arrive in Cambodia in late March. And if everything goes well, the lab should be able to be put into operation in April. The maximum test capacity of this lab is 1,000 per day. So we hope that this will also be of some help to the epidemic prevention efforts of Cambodia. And furthermore, we are putting together the second batch of vaccines to be donated to Cambodia. On top of the 600,000 we have already donated in February. We are going to deliver on the second batch, I think maybe later this month. I don't know the exact number of doses yet, but one thing is for sure, it will exceed the 400,000 Cambodia has requested. And meanwhile, the embassy is also coordinating with the Chinese companies and line agencies to provide facility to Cambodia in its commercial purchase of Chinese vaccines. The 1.5 million vaccine that Cambodia has ordered from Sihanoukville are expected to arrive in Cambodia very soon. Last but not least, I think the community transmission has once again reminded us how important it is for everybody to follow the health guidelines set by the Cambodian government. And ever since the outbreak, the embassy has put out numerous advisories urging all the Chinese nationals here to obey the laws and regulations of Cambodia, to follow strictly the health guidelines, and also to cooperate fully with the health authorities of Cambodia. So although the community transmission is still going on, I have confidence in the Khmer government and people. I think Cambodia will be able to overcome this temporary setback very soon. And as far as the embassy is concerned, we will continue to monitor the situation and provide necessary assistance. Please be assured that we will always be there for Cambodia when needed.
Thank you, Excellency. Because of COVID-19, which has been with us like over 1 year now. There have been travel restrictions all over the globe. Recently, there are speculation regarding the restriction and procedure regarding traveling by the government of Beijing. Can you please explain us more on, elaborate on this issue so that we can remove confusion and speculation from this?
Thank you for the question. Just like most countries in the world, China has adopted some science-based guidelines for international travelers throughout the pandemic, requesting all the international travelers to have nucleic tests and IgM antibody tests before boarding the plane, and undergo nasal and throat swab tests and quarantine at designated hotels after their arrival in China. This is in line with the general international practice. Some people might think it's a little bit too strict, but actually the purpose of these measures is to ensure the safety and orderliness of cross-border traveling during the pandemic. And it's for the good of everybody involved. In the future, we'll continue to monitor the evolution of the virus and adjust the measures in a scientific and dynamic way and in accordance with relevant laws and regulations. Right now, between China and Cambodia, the air travel is very convenient. We have more than 20 flights every week. And China recently has issued a health certificate of its own version of health certificate for international traveling, which contains information such as vaccination and test results. And right now, we are working with the other countries, including Cambodia, for mutual recognition of such kind of health certificates. Once an agreement is reached in the future, I think we will be able to explore the possibility, of making special arrangements for the holders of these kind of certificates in terms of visa and quarantine, which will facilitate the international traveling even more.
Yes, Her Excellency, the first case of COVID-19 has been discovered in Cambodia since January next year. I would like to ask you to outline the People's Republic of China response to COVID-19 situation in Cambodia since January last year. How has it been?
Ever since the outbreak of the pandemic, China and Cambodia have been working very closely together, and we have been supporting and helping each other, which has set an example for international cooperation against the pandemic. Immediately after the first case was reported in Cambodia, the Chinese government sent out 2 medical teams to Cambodia. The civil medical team was the first one sent by China to neighboring countries, and the military medical team was the first one China sent out to the world during the pandemic. And during their time here, they have shared their experiences with their Khmer counterparts about how to prevent and how to treat the epidemic. And the Chinese government have also provided some in-kind donations, such as surgical masks, protection gear, and test kits to Cambodia. And this donation not just came from the central government. And this February, the first batch of Chinese vaccines arrived here, 600,000. Making Cambodia one of the first countries to receive China-donated vaccines in the world. In the future, we'll continue to do more to help Cambodia.
Thank you very much. During the first 2 months of the outbreak in China, our Prime Minister Hun Sen, he went to visit China. Even the despite the ongoing pandemic. So in your own word, in your own view, how do you feel about that?
Just the support between China and Cambodia has been mutual, and it's a two-way street. Actually, after China was hit by the pandemic, Cambodia was one of the first countries that provided us with valuable support. Few people know this, but actually the first batch of foreign donation Wuhan received was actually from Cambodia. Their Majesties, the King and Queen Mother, also made a generous donation to China in the early days of the pandemic. The SPM's visit to China was the culmination of Cambodia's support to China. We really appreciate his visit, which took place at the height of the pandemic in China, and which has showed Cambodia's great solidarity with the Chinese people at difficult times. And it shows that we are truly a community of shared destiny. And the SPM's visit made headline in both traditional and social media in China. He has always been a household name, in China. He's known to be a friend of China. But I think through his visit, he has won even more hearts, and his fan base has grown even bigger in China. So we really appreciate this gesture of goodwill from Cambodia.
Thank you for your answer. Despite WHO finding, there have been rumors and speculation regarding the origin of this COVID-19, formerly known as coronavirus, the novel coronavirus. It's still there. The conspiracy theories, the rumors, they are still there. Can you please, explain to us on that, enlighten us on this issue?
I think tracing the origin of the virus is a scientific matter that should be left to the scientists to work it out. There are indeed some conspiracy theories out there, saying that the virus was man-made or, caused by leaks of a lab in Wuhan. These accusations are just groundless, and we think they are politically motivated and not backed by any credible evidence. On this matter, we believe in science. We are firmly opposed to the politicalization of the pandemic and the stigmatization arising herewith. Late January and early February, China received a group of WHO experts. During their visit, we gave them full access to the relevant venues. And the two sides also had discussions about the origin of the virus in an extensive and frank manner. Based on their initial findings, the experts have generally ruled out the possibility of lab leaks and the virus being man-made. Their final report is expected to come out, I think, in the coming weeks. What merits our attention is that there have been numerous reports about the virus actually appearing, in the latter half of 2019 in multiple places in the world. We believe that it's also necessary to conduct similar on-site investigations in those places as well. And we hope the countries involved will also adopt a scientific attitude and cooperate with the WHO in tracing the origin of the virus. On China's part, we'll continue to cooperate with the WHO on this matter.
Thank you for your answer. The People's Republic of China have offered massive assistance and guidance to Cambodia. So in your own view, during this time, after a period of time, do you think what are the lessons that Cambodian authority has gained from China in order to deal with the COVID-19 situation, especially the sudden rise of cases?
Okay. I think Cambodia has been widely recognized as a success story in curbing the pandemic. Compared with the other countries, I think Cambodia has done a very good job in keeping the pandemic, keeping the virus generally at bay. It's not easy for a developing country like Cambodia to achieve such a remarkable result. China has provided some assistance, and we have shared our experiences without any reservation with our Cambodian friends. We are glad to be of some help, but I think the credit should mostly go to the Cambodian government and people themselves. I think the strong leadership of the SPM has played a decisive role in the process. The support of the Khmer people and the dedication of the frontline workers, such as doctors and nurses, also help. Cambodia has adopted a very scientific approach and adjusted its prevention measures in light of the changing circumstances. So we really salute the Cambodian government and people for their achievements so far. But of course, with the pandemic still raging in the world, nobody is safe unless the rest of the world is safe. So the situation can be fluid at times. This time, the community transmission is more serious, and thus will take more time to subside than the previous ones. Immediately after the outbreak, I think the Cambodian government has taken very timely and resolute measures. And I'm really impressed by the speed of the measures being rolled out across the country. Just as I said, I have full confidence in the Cambodian government and people. I'm sure Cambodia will tide over this temporary difficulty very soon. The embassy will continue to monitor the situation and then provide necessary assistance if necessary. Okay.
Her Excellency, we have talked a lot on the issue of the pandemic and how to deal with it. Now let's talk about the economy. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic is not only one of the worst public health crises, but also one of the worst socio-economic crises the world and in Cambodia has ever faced. So, what, in your own opinion, and on your own view and based on statistics and data, so what do you think are the consequences that the pandemic has on Cambodia's economy, especially its trade with China?
Just as you said, it's true that the pandemic has taken its toll on the global economy. And according to a report by the World Bank, the world economy shrank by 4.2% last year. It has also greatly impacted the global supply chain, posing serious challenges to the world economies, including Cambodia. As a friend, we have been following the impact of the pandemic on the economic situation of Cambodia very closely. Last year, when the world was first hit by the pandemic, cutting off supply chain, China overcame great difficulties and tried our best to provide the raw materials badly needed by the garment industry of Cambodia. And we also accelerated the negotiations as much as possible and signed FTA with Cambodia. It's the first FTA Cambodia has ever signed with a foreign country. We hope this FTA will help Cambodia its post-COVID economic recovery. And last year, we also signed a protocol on the quarantine requirements for Cambodian Mongols to be exported to China. And this year, as a special arrangement during the pandemic, we conducted the quarantine inspection of the first batch of Mongol exporters through video. In spite of the influence of the pandemic, last year, Cambodia's exports to China grew by 8%. In the future, China will continue to make investment in Cambodia. We'll open our market to Cambodian products, and we'll work with the Cambodian side for full and early recovery of the economy.
You mentioned free trade agreement FTA. So would it be a physical ratification of FTA going to be carried out, and where will it be?
The signing of the FTA is a major milestone in our relations, and it took less than a year for the negotiations to conclude. And it's a record, in China's history of FTA negotiations. And because of COVID, most of the negotiations were done by video. Right now, the competent departments of the two sides are working very hard to go through the ratification procedure. As my understanding is that we each go through our own ratification procedure, and then we exchange the ratification notes. It doesn't have to be, face to face. Formality actually is not important. What is important is for the FTA to enter into force as soon as possible. If everything goes well, I think the FTA should be able to go into effect in the first half of this year. And after its ratification, we hope the FTA will help Cambodia in its post-COVID economic recovery. And we'll see more high-quality products from Cambodia being exported to China.
Cambodia and China have been a very, very good friend, like ironclad friends. So this year, would there be any plan for the visit, for the high-level visit between the leaders of both countries?
Right now, actually, Their Majesties, the King and the Queen Mother, are in China for routine medical checkup. We consider this a high-level visit too, and we'll do everything we possibly can to make sure that their visit is smooth and pleasant. Actually, earlier this week, His Majesty visited Shanghai, where he was very well received. And last year, when the SPM visited China, the Chinese leaders asked him to invite China to visit China again when the pandemic was over. And when our State Councilor Wang Yi was here for a visit last October, he reiterated this invitation. So the invitation is a standing one. The SPM will definitely be one of the first foreign leaders we invite back to China when conditions permit. Hopefully, it can happen this year. The foreign ministries of the two sides will keep close communication about this. Actually, in spite of the influence of the pandemic on high-level visits, the relationship between China and Cambodia has not been affected at all. The leaders of the two countries have kept close communication through telephone and through video conference. Last year, the DPM Hong Nan Hong and State Councilor Wang Yi presided over the 5th Intergovernmental Coordination Committee through video conference. DPM Prak Sokun had full conversation with the Councilor Wang Yi. And this January, the chairman of the National People's Congress of China and the president of the National Assembly of Cambodia, they presided over the parliamentary exchanges between the two countries through video. Later this year, Cambodia will play host to the GMS summit and also the 13th ASEM, which will also provide opportunities for the leaders of the two countries to interact. We don't know whether the summits will be in physical or in virtual forms, but China will be supporting Cambodia, whatever the form.
That's it for my questions. Thank you very much for giving us so much useful insight. Thank you again, Her Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for our interview today. Stay safe and see you next week. Goodbye.